All right, guys, we have a question about finding the outlier. So we have this information in front of us. We have these different colleges and how many times they've appeared in the basketball tournament. And so we can see that Mercer's been in it 3 times, Ohio's been in it 13 times, and so on, right? So we have all these little pieces of data. If I count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we have 10 pieces of data. That's important as we are finding our outlier. Now, look and see if any of those numbers seem like outside of the norm to you. And I'm going to show you, if we show this on a dot plot, I think it makes it really obvious where a potential outlier could be, right? This could be an outlier. So I'm going to put a question mark there to say, yeah, maybe New Mexico State appearing 19 times in this tournament could be. But, even the 13 is stands apart, right? It's a little bit away from the majority of the pieces of data, right? So that's the idea of an outlier, but there is technically a way to find it with your data and math and all that good stuff. So that's what we're about to get into. So an outlier is more than 1.5 times the IQR below the first quartile or above the third quartile. What in the world does that mean? First of all, one of the things it means is that we need to know what our IQR is in our quartile range. We need to figure out what our first quartile is and our third quartile. So let's jump into that. To do that, I need to put the pieces of data in order from the least to the greatest. So I'm going to write that here. And so notice that I've listed 1177, right? If a number appears twice in the piece of data set, in this data set, you want to list it twice, however many times it occurs. So if I count these up, this is 10 pieces of data, which matches, we said at the beginning or earlier that it should be 10. Okay, so I need to find the first quartile. All right, so for that, I need to sort of divide this in half and get a sense of where the lower half and the upper half are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so right in between is going to be my halfway point between that 5 and 7. Okay, so first quartile is going to be the median of the lower half, which is 3. So the Q1 is 3. And then the median of the upper half. So Q3 is 8. So let me put a box around that. All right. So that's kind of nice that we're just finding the middle of those two. And then IQR is Q3 minus Q1, or, third quartile minus the first quartile. So 8 minus 3. So that comes out nice and clean. We have an IQR interquartile range of 5. So let's talk about outlier now. So we know that our outlier, which we're going to call X because we're saying some number, some group of numbers actually, it has to be less than the first quartile, which was 3. Below that, minus 1.5 times the outlier, which was, times the IQR, which was 5. All right, so less than the first quartile minus 1.5 times 5 is 7.5. All right, 3 minus 7.5 is negative 4.5. So our at the bottom end of this, our outlier would have to be a number less than negative 4.5. Well, we don't have anything out here, in the negatives. So we don't have any outliers to that side, which makes sense. We looked at our dot plot. We didn't think that we did. All right, now let's go to the other end of the spectrum and say X plus, our third quartile was 8. Not X plus. X is greater than, I was thinking about that we're going to add this. Sorry. X is greater than 8 plus, that's what I meant to say. The 1.5 times our interquartile range. And we already know that that is 7.5. So X is greater than 8 plus 7.5. Okay, because 1.5 times 5 is 7.5. And 8 plus 7.5 is 15.5 or 15.5. So anything greater than 15.5, which is about here, is an outlier. So that confirms that New Mexico State appearing 19 times in this basketball tournament, that is an outlier. So that would be our answer, that this is our outlier. The 13 looks like it is kind of outside, but it's not far enough. 13 is inside of this range, right? At negative 4.5 to positive 15.5. And anything beyond that range on either side of this would be considered an outlier. Okay. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about. Setting this up is, at first can be confusing. So keep in mind that it's, your Q1 minus 1.5 times your IQR. And then it's your Q3 plus 1.5 times your IQR. So that's sort of the setup each time. All right. I do hope that's helpful. Let me know if you have more questions. See you next time.